impromptu exploration of Google Antigravity. And in this exploration, I am going to explore how to add custom rules and what is the workflow concept in Antigravity. So the custom rules and the workflows can be specified by going to customization. So in your Antigravity UI, if I go to, or the IDE, if I go to customization, there are rules, there are workflows. And we'll see what these are. Rules, as the name suggests, I can specify certain set of rules which Antigravity needs to follow while creating the code for a particular application. And sometimes back, actually, I wrote a blog on that specs are the new code. And this aligns to that thought process. More we can constrain the IDEs to follow certain set of rules, better the code is, better the structure of the code is, because you are actually constraining it to follow a certain structure through the rules. The code also becomes more aligned to how you want to build the code, right? That's where rules come into picture, right? Where I can specify global rules. Global rules will apply to all the projects within the workspace, or all the projects as part of the workspace. And then workspace related rules are which the rules are very local to that particular workspace only, right? So the global rules apply across the workspace, and workspace rules apply to only the workspace you are working on, right? And the location where this rules reside, if I, let's say, click on global rules, you'll see it is residing in your home directory, right? .gemini/gemini.md, right? That is where I can mention the global rules, right? So anything that all the workspaces as part of the IDE will follow those, those rules will apply to them, right? So we are not going to create global rules. We'll create local workspace specific rules today, right? So if I click on workspace, I can say, so let's say I say this is code structure, right? Code structure rules, right? So it will get created under dot. So again, within your project, the folder is .agent. Within that, the subfolder is rules. Under that, you can write your rules. You can have multiple sets of rules, right? So let me start writing the rules, and I'll give the rules in a markdown template, because I have seen from experience language models understands markdown better, right? So I'll say this is code structure rules, right? So what are we going to build? Let me think, right? So we will build a library management system, right? Where we will have the application that will build, right? We'll have a Streamlit based UI, which will help us to reserve books, check out books, and check in books, right? So we'll say that, okay, let's say this application is going to be a library management application where library application with below functions or features. Right. So then we'll have the features. So first feature is, we'll say search. Right. So as part of search, what we'll do is, we'll say what the search will do is, the application should allow capability to search for books that we can borrow. Right. Then I'll say reserve. The application should allow us to reserve or unreserve a book. Right. For now, we'll just have these two only, because we are just trying to understand this feature. Right. We are not going to build a full-fledged library management application. Then I'll say that so this here I'll say that the application features, and here I'll say code structure rules. The code must be structured as below. Right? And here I'll say that the structure should be that there should be a UI folder. UI folder will have the UI related code logic. Then I'll say there should be a model folder will have the schemas, will have the structured schemas for book reservation, book and reservation. Right. For now we'll have these two models. Then we'll have services, all the library management functions will stay here. Right? So this is a rule that I created, right? And then let's have another rule, which is let me create another rule, which would be where we'll say environment related rules, right? So env, not environment, we'll say so basically I wanted to say that git ignore and all, right? In fact, we'll not create another one here, only we'll say other. In fact, no, I don't need this, right? Here itself I'll say there should be a dot git ignore. We'll have the git ignore stuff here, git ignore content. Then I'll say requirements.txt should have the dependencies, right? And then lastly, .env should have any secrets, the secrets and the passwords, the secrets and the passwords will be part of this, right? So this is one rule. I can further constrain the application with more rules so that the IDE is guided towards how I want to build the application. For example, I could have another rule like on that follow a factory pattern for library management data store, right? So that the default can be built using SQLite, but I should be able to move to any other database, right? Those type of rules also I can mention here. Now, what is a workflow? The workflow, let me click on workflow first. So let me go to workflow. So workflows also, I can have a global workflow. I have a workspace related workflow. Let's create a workspace related workflow. So workflows are kind of instructions, saved instructions that I can trigger by typing that / and the workflow name. Let's create a workflow and it will be clear, right? So let's say it is post development workflow, right? So after I develop, I'll say that ensure that the git ignore file has all the required, git ignore has all the required files, right? Second, ensure that the code has followed the structure mentioned in the rules. 3, ensure that no secrets and passwords are hard-coded in the code. 4, ensure that all the code functions are properly documented. And the 5th one will say ensure that proper logging and exception handling has been taken care of, right? So after the code is developed, right, I can say / post development, and this is, it will go through all these steps one by one, right? That is the purpose of the workspace. So let's now try to create the code. So I'll say back to agent, right? And here I'll say create library management system. Okay, I'll not say to follow the rules. Let's see if it automatically understands that there's a rule file that it needs to use, right? So let's say create library management application. Right, let's see what it does. So it will now start planning with Gemini 3 Pro. So let's see what it does. It has started working. Okay. I am solidifying the library apps code structure, focusing on the UI and the model directories. So it is actually, because in the think we did say that UI and model should be there, so it is for, referring to the rules. My main focus is a clean and intuitive design, keeping things organized and efficient while also integrating the request functionalities, right? That was the thought. So it says analyzed antigravity, explore rules workflows. So it did go through it. I'm currently investigating the existing workspace, particularly regarding the services. So it is going through the rules, very good. I have hit a roadblock with the task boundary. The system dims the current scope too simple. Wow. Yes, that's why that's what I wanted. But let's see what thought process it created, right? I'm realizing the system may view this task too straightforward for a task boundary. Perhaps my initial lack of progress is the issue. Building a complete application though surely warrants the added structure. I'll start with the implementation plan and see if that shifts the system's perspective, or I'll just keep moving forward without a boundary. Okay. The system dims the current scope too simple. Despite this being a full application, I am now crafting the implementation plan to establish project structure and demonstrate complexity. I am deciding on the tech stack Python, good, and sketching out the model, service, and UI directories, laying the groundwork for book.py, Python or reservation, and the library services, right? Refining entry point strategy. I am now contemplating the application's entry point, which seems to be a subtle point. The prescribed structure does not explicitly mention make its placement unclear. I'm leaning towards including it in root or services. Okay, so it is actually giving me more inputs on how to build the application. So I have created an implementation plan. Let me open the implementation plan. Right, so this is the implementation plan it is showing, right? Now, one thing I forgot to tell it that the UI should be in Streamlit, right? So I'll say that modify the implementation plan to ensure that the UI is developed using Streamlit. Okay, so now it should modify it. I have decided to swap the web instead of, okay, so initially it was thinking HTML, CSS, JS with Flask. I'm now exploring Streamlit for the user interface. Right, it is modifying the project structure. It is modifying the implementation plan. Right. Review scope concept. I've decided to abandon the initial task boundary ideas, deeming it unnecessary complex for the current problem. Instead, I'll directly modify the implementation plan, focusing on modularity. I think that's what it was, focusing on simplicity, task.amd. Yeah. So it created, so okay, so this is what it modified. This is how it modified it. So I'll say, okay, go ahead and proceed, right? Let it create it. Okay, the implementation plan. So it is initializing, right? Creating the project structure. Okay, so the project structure is created exactly like how I put the code structure, right? So it is putting requirements.txt, right? Advancing, defining core components, right? So under model, it should have the book.py, right? Yeah, it created as a data class. Excellent. This is what I wanted. I'll accept this. I'll accept this as well, right? This is good. It is still implementing under the services. It should have all the services the functionalities created under services. Still creating it. I'm ready to move the application to the verification stage. Now it is creating the Streamlit application. Right. Okay, so it created the Streamlit, so I'll accept everything, right? And it gave me a walkthrough also, right? How to run this, it gave me everything, right? So let's see if we can follow this route. Now I'll say, let me create a terminal, new terminal. Okay, so the one I did not like here is it is not asking me to create a virtual environment. I'll say in the walkthrough, please also add instructions to create a virtual environment. Let's see what it does. Updating the guide. Okay, so now it gave me Python, but Python will not work. It should be Python 3. I can give that feedback, but for now I'll not give the feedback. I'll change it myself. Python 3 minus m minus module vnb, right? So I'm creating my virtual, yes, for the workspace folder. Let me activate the virtual environment. Let me do a pip install of this. Okay. So let me see, I asked it to do streamlit.py. Okay, yep. So it gave me both, right? And now let me see if I do a streamlit run UI app.py. What happens? Yep, it created it for me, right? So let me close this out. Let me go back here. I wanted to now run the workflow thing, right? So I'll say slash post development, right? And this is how workflow goes, right? I wanted to run all the checks that I have, not this one. I wanted this to be in this program, right? Let me, right? Oops. Post development, and let me run the post development checks on it. Okay, I am currently evaluating the code compliance. So okay, so one by one it will go through our workflow thing, right? Reviewed code, identified missing logging, and yeah, so it has already identified something. Okay, updating code with logging, analyzed book.py. Let me accept all. Yeah, so it is actually going through all the things that I have mentioned in the workflow. It's verifying after making those changes. I've completed the post deployment review. I've reviewed docstring to the modules, logging to the main, and verified the project structure and git ignore, right? Reviewing code for best practices, updating code with logging and documentation, adding. So this has done all these things, right? And if I, let me do one thing, let me go to book.py and just to test it out, not in book.py, let me go to the services.py, right? I'll just say password equal to password, right? One of the thing that I mentioned is that in the workflow that ensure that no secrets are hard coded. Let's see if it is able to do it. I will run the post deployment again. And let's see what it does. Reviewing security measures, checking for hard coded secrets. So it is now found it out. If I go to library service.py, it actually found it here, right? So it is following this workflow, right? So this removed it. The code is now compliant with the post development workflow. Right. So this is what I wanted to explore on anti-gravity today, the rules and the workflow. Right. Thank you.